Well, hello there. Have you looked at part one and part two? If so, continue on and let's conclude this review. But if you haven't looked at part one and part two, it's no problem. Go back, look at part one and or part two, then come back here and you can continue on and look at part three together. All right. The next part of the tour, you will continue on to Wanaka. Now, on the way, what they started doing for this part of the tour is that it will allow you to do a volunteer opportunity. And therefore, you'll wake up with friends, Joseph, and you continue on. Eventually, you'll stop. So we stopped at a location that was the Aspiring Biodiversity Trust, and basically it's an effort to restore for the original forest to New Zealand. So an interesting thing about New Zealand is that New Zealand is pretty much one of the last places on Earth. Well, it's a country, it's an area that evolved without mammals. Mammals, all types of mammals, are not native to New Zealand. When humans arrived, we brought pets, and we brought unattended mammals like rats, for example. We also brought plant life that are not native to New Zealand, but because there are no natural defenses against these particular plants, kind of taken over the ecosystem. And therefore, this particular organization helps plant new native species in areas of New Zealand. So before we continue on to Wanaka, we stopped and we were able to plant some new wildlife. I thought it was very good. It was new, but just to let you know, this part of the tour was a volunteer opportunity. I thought it was very good. And then we continue on to Wanaka. Now, Wanaka originally wasn't a high-end area, but now it is a high-end area. And you'll be spending a few days, I think a day or two in Wanaka. And it's very, very beautiful. But what we did in this part of the tour is that this day is really a lot of driving. You do have opportunities again to take pictures of the glacier because it's on the way there. You have a volunteer opportunity, and then you'll continue on to Wanaka. The hotel that we stayed at was very nice. Wanaka is situated next to a lake. The hotel is right along the lake. You have a lot of free time. So therefore, once you stop, you'll have dinner in Wanaka, and then after that, you can do what you want till the next day. Now you'll be spending an additional day in Wanaka, and in this particular part, let's see, I'm trying to remember. Oh, now I remember. Okay. All right. So there is a mountain in Wanaka. There's a few mountains. So you can do some tour, you can do some walking on your own, but you do that on your own. The whole point of this part of Wanaka is that you'll in essence you'll visit a farm. You'll visit a deer farm. And you'll do a tour of the area because this particular family owns a lot of acres in New Zealand. So you'll do a tour of the area. It is a deer farm. Well, it's partly a deer farm, but the goal is to get you'll be able to see deer, lots of deer. lots and lots of deer. It also has, I believe, walnuts, so you'll be able to get some walnuts, and then you'll be able to eat with the owners of this business and get a chance to talk to them. I will be honest, I was more interested because the owners had a cat. Actually, I think a 20-year-old cat. So I was more interested in the cat than talking to the owner. But that's what you do in Wanaka. That's what you do on this particular day of the tour. Then you go back to Wanaka, and then you can spend the day how you want. It's a lot. A lot of Intrepid tours is not really, again, it's not really as structured. So you'll be able to have a lot of free time, which I really do appreciate. But then you stop, you stop, you rest, and then you continue on to the next phase of the tour, which is okay. So after you leave Wanaka, you'll continue on to Arrowtown. So one thing about New Zealand is that, at least in this part, west coast of the United States, on especially New Zealand, there were gold rushes, and it kind of flows. So a lot of people found gold in California. Once they've got all that gold, some of them moved to New Zealand because they found gold there, and you find gold in Arrowtown. And the interesting thing about Arrowtown is that the downtown area looks a lot like the old western cities in the United States, which makes sense because a lot of people from once they were able to found and extracted gold in the western part of the United States, they went to New Zealand. The only thing they knew was how to build those similar buildings, so they built those buildings in the downtown area. So you can go to Arrowtown, and you'll have some free time to explore, look at different things, might be able to actually find some gold, but it's not a lot, so you really don't have to worry about that. And then once you finish that, then you'll continue on to Gibson Valley. Now, this is part of the trip where you will be out in the middle of nowhere. Oh, I forgot. On the way, the tour guide might stop, and actually you can do some bungee jumping. Don't recommend. Well, I'm not gonna recommend it, but you can do that. He'll say that he or she will say that they want to do bungee jumping, and again they'll stop and you'll be able to bungee jump. So if you're into the bungee jumping, there's your opportunity. Then you'll stop at Gibson Valley, which is a winery, and it's an extravagant meal. It's a large meal, so you might want to modulate things for this particular meal. The whole point of this part of the trip is, in essence, you're out in the middle of nowhere. You're out in the middle in a low light pollution area. What I'm getting at is the point of this part of the trip is be able to look at the night sky. You'll be staying at the winery. The hotel rooms are really nice, really, really nice. So basically, it's a King Rose Winery, and it's very good. The problem with us was that a lot of this was dependent, and therefore it was cloudy, so you couldn't enjoy the night sky. Now, for me, I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was clear. I was able to get up, walk out, and see the night sky because there's very little light pollution. But that's the whole point of this part of the trip, is really to get to have a very nice meal and get to see the night sky. And then after that, you will continue on your way to Milford, the Milford Sound. So how this part of the trip works is that once you'll go to Gibson. Basically, you'll go to Gibson Valley. You'll stop. You'll be handed over to another tour guide who will take you to Milford Sound. Now, it was raining along the way, but you actually wanted to rain while you're going to Milford Sound. But you wanted to stop, because what happens is that it will be overflows of water. It will be a lot of waterfalls that are overflowing once you're in Milford Valley. I will say, not Milford Valley, Milford Sound. I will say this is one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen in my life, because once you get there, once you get into the Sound, it is a boat ride tour, and it is cold, so you probably want to bring a jacket. At least it was cold, but if it just rained, you'll see waterfalls all along the mountains. It is extremely, extremely beautiful. And it's an all day. You actually end up staying in the last city, which is Queenstown, overnight. But you will get a chance to go to Milford Sound. And it's not a private tour. It is a tour with other people from other tours. Now, what happened to us was that we were going to be on a small boat, but the boat had difficulty, and therefore they put us on a larger boat. Lunch is included in this one, regardless of what you do. So lunch is included, but it was about an hour, hour and a half, and it was beautiful. Oh my goodness, that was the best. Oh wow! So, if you do nothing else, make sure you go to Milford Sound, and you hope for it to rain. You just want it to stop before you actually do your tour. You don't want it to rain while you're on the boat, because you want it to stop, which is what happened to us. It rained, then it stopped, and therefore, once you go for Milford Sound, you just see water flowing all over the place, and then you go to the final city in the tour, which is Queenstown. Now, Queenstown, you'll be there for about a day. It's recommended you stay extra, but a lot of people leave once the tour is over. And you have a few options that the trip does not cover. Some people go skydiving. Some people go bike riding. Some people do what I did and take a Lord of the Rings tour. Now, I'll have the name of the tour in the video, but I took a Lord of the Rings tour because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. We have a final or goodbye dinner that they'll take you on. So I couldn't do the all day thing, but I did do half a day. And they'll take you around to places where they shot parts of the Lord of the Rings films. And that's the big thing in Queenstown. It's a big thing in New Zealand. It's amazing that a film that was made over 20 years ago actually has that effect. But it was a pretty big film. And Lord of the Rings was a groundbreaking film. It got a lot of people interested in the books. It got a lot of people interested in the series. It got a lot of people interested in fantasy. And therefore, I really appreciate the effect that it had on the country, because I thoroughly love. Oh, sorry, my cat again. Thoroughly love Lord of the Rings. Anyway, I took a Lord of the Rings tour, and it's a half a day. The tour guide went through different places of the film that they shot, so they took a shot. They'll take a shot of where Mordor, the entrance of Mordor was, the mountains that they keep showing in the films about Mordor. They'll take you there. Those are called the Rejuvenating Mountains. It's actually a mountain range that you can see from Queenstown. They'll take you where Isildur died. They'll take you to where Rohan was filmed. Part of Rohan was filmed. They'll take you to where, at the end of the Fellowship, where Frodo, at the end of the first film, where they're rowing down the river, they'll take you to where that was actually shot. And one thing you do learn is that post-production is amazing, because a lot of those scenes, a lot of those images do not look like they do in the like they do in the film. But if you're a Lord of the Rings, oh, and one final thing he he was able to, he'll give you a picture or a video of the One Ring and actually show you disappearing once you put it on, which I thought was amazing. And then the tour guide does have props. So he has props of different swords that they use in the series: Gimli's axe, Sting, the robe that the Fellowship used, is Gandalf's staff. Well, Gandalf the Grey's staff, not Gandalf the White staff. And movie props. So it was cool. And then they will he I will say though that if you do take a tour, a Lord of the Rings tour, it's much more enjoyable if you go with other people who are into the series. The people that I went with on this tour, they weren't really into the Lord of the Rings series. They did it more because it was something to do, and that really took the fun out of it. I still enjoyed it, but it's much more enjoyable if all the people are huge fans of the series. But you do your activity, and then you come back for, you do the goodbye dinner, and the goodbye dinner, you basically do a boat cruise in Queenstown. They'll take you to a resort where you have your dinner. You're able to you will be able to see a sheep shearing, and then after that you get back on the boat and they take you back. And then after that, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for the tour. People can stay in Queenstown. Some people go to other parts of New Zealand. Some people go to Australia. I do recommend that if you go to New Zealand, then if you go to New Zealand, then you should also take the time to go to Australia, because depending on where you're coming from, the flight is pretty long. So a lot of people, they take care of both countries at once. I didn't do that. I went to Australia many years ago, and then later on I went to New Zealand, but it's just easier to knock everything out at once. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this trip. I enjoyed the tour. I enjoyed the people on the tour. It was a bit smaller than expected, but even the tour guide said that it was probably the time of year that I went, which was late, about mid December. But it was still a nice tour, and I thought I thought New Zealand was one of the most beautiful countries I've ever seen. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend you're going to New Zealand. I highly recommend taking the Intrepid tour. I highly recommend visit as many countries as you can in this world and get a good. Because one thing you do, you learn to appreciate things depending on where you're coming from and depending on where you're going, what you're doing. So overall, I recommend the tour. I recommend the country, and please leave any comments in the video, and I hope to see you again.